Alex Hormozi is the famously 30-something-year-old $100 million entrepreneur who's got nothing to sell you.
And I have nothing to sell you.
In this video, he tells us the top 14 money mistakes to avoid in your 20s, the decade you are most likely to make your biggest money-making mistakes.
There are 14 massive money mistakes that people make in their 20s that you do not want to repeat. And this is one of those, don't buy an iPhone, buy an Android bullshit. Like, if you make these mistakes early, you will have to pay for them for years. The good thing is that you can avoid them very easily. Number one, underspending on education and overspending on status. When you're in your 20s, you probably aren't balling. And the amount of people on Instagram I see with their check mark that they bought in front of a Lambo that they whatever, like, we all get it. They're full of shit. We understand. The people who matter are not impressed. If I wear a $200,000 watch, all the buddies that I have don't give a shit.
He's got a great point. That first one, fairly simple. Stop spending on stupid stuff and get your money right. Easier said than done, because sometimes you're not necessarily spending for status, but you're like, I'm tired, man. I want the nice thing. I'm gonna get a new car. But let's see what number two is.
Taking jobs to earn rather than to learn. And this is one of the biggest ones. We had 1,000 people who applied for a YouTube editor. So for editing videos like this. So we offered somebody very good pay. And the guy said, I want an extra $3,000 a year. Missing the fucking plot. What he didn't understand was that he was in a season of learning, not a season of earning.
Dang, man, this dude fumbled the bag. Straight up dropped the ball. This is that, like, you have a number in your head and you get stuck on that number and you feel like, I need to stick to my value. I'm gonna stick to my worth.
Or else and get 30%, not even 3,000, 30% higher. The people who are gonna pay that premium are paying the premium for everything you know and have nothing to add to you. If you're taking your jobs right now in order to earn, it's not the right season. You're trying to cash in early. The earning potential of you getting an extra $10,000 a year or $25,000 a year in your 20s is so inconsequential on the long time horizon of the skills that you should be learning right now. 3 is that you save money. That is a mistake. Hear me out. You want to save money in your 20s, but not actually save it. You want to not spend it or blow it on shit, and you want to put it into a separate account, but that money you want to invest, not dollar.
Saying you don't spend it, but you're not just sitting on the egg.
Not dollar cost averaging S&P or whatever it is. You can do that by all means. It's a great way to have some money later. But if you want to become filthy rich, which is hopefully, what Motivation is here to do, you want to
filthy rich is not quantifiable, but I know what he's saying. Let's see what he wants to invest in. The investing thing is weird.
Invest that money into you and your earning capacity. Right now, you make so little that the money doesn't matter. So if you save $500 a month, save $1,000 a month, you can put that into the calculator and look what it's gonna be in 70 years. And cool. One, it doesn't factor in inflation. So when people see that they're gonna be worth $4 million in 60 years is also worth $1 million today. Think about how much more you'll get back if you spend $10,000 this year and then you double your earning capacity or you triple your earning capacity. Instead of saving money to invest in assets, invest in the number one asset, which is you, and increasing your earning potential.
He said invest in you. So I'm assuming he means education, he means courses, he means equipment, whatever that is, investing into your business. I remember when I turned 18, I found out that a great semi-racist uncle of mine created a college fund for me when I was very little. I found this out when I was 18. This college fund had $12,000 in it. I knew I did not want to go to college. So I was able to pull that $12,000 out. I had to pay 20% fee or 10% fee. I think it was $2,000 out of the 12,000. I had 10 grand left over and I was able to invest all of that money back into equipment that I ultimately sold for better equipment. Because the equipment I just bought a cinema camera. I bought an amazing microphone, all the stuff that I'd never really used. But that being said, I invested in myself and it did help, per se, looking back, a lot in getting my freelance business started in a way where I never actually had to work a regular job. I never, ever had to go bag groceries. I got to do video production all through high school. And then when I graduated, I already had some clients, but I upgraded all my equipment and it really solidified my value in the market or the quality I was able to produce. So I get what he's saying here.
Number 4, decide how much you're going to invest first before you spend money. Prioritization comes from it's literally priority. It comes first, right? It's that you take the money off the top and you say, this money has been prioritized for my learning, my education. And then whatever you have left, that you can spend. All that money, that account, you can let it stockpile up and then you see something that you want to learn and then deploy the capital. Not what do I have left at the end of the month? Can I afford it? You've got this big pile of gold over here that every month you plow into. And then when you see the opportunity, you make the decision, you pull the trigger. Number 5.
It's kind of a good saving hack. You don't feel like you're saving for something. You're not in the mindset that you always can't afford the one thing you're looking at. Instead, you're just thinking okay, let me be open-handed let me not prioritize spending on me. Let me just save. And then down the road, I can make a very calculated decision.
Automate the investing, and you want to manualize the spending. You want to lubricate how easy it is for you to invest in yourself, and you want to make it harder to spend on shit that never comes back to you. Dave Ramsey talks about people having cash rather than credit cards. You actually feel pain when you buy things in cash compared to using credit cards.
The harder it is to buy something, the less you buy.
Like the only money that even hits your account is the money that you're allowed to spend. The other money you've already allocated out to the other things. Like you have your rent account maybe, and then you've got your personal investing account, SME. You've got your food and your car money, whatever. Number 6, don't go shopping.
Okay.
Let's be real. You don't need another set of sneakers. The idea that someone says, I'm gonna go shopping, like they have no agenda, it just means like, I'm going to waste money today. Stick with the lists that you already have pre-approved in terms of your budget. This is my list. These are my groceries. This is whatever. And if it's not on the list,
Who goes shopping? I mean, that's some spendaholic stuff. Even if you're like scrolling on a website, is different than me. My thing is I got enough like hobbies and like interests and stuff where I automatically know the next thing I really, really want. So I don't go shopping. I kind of just like, it's lingering in the back of my head and I'm like, boom, pull the trigger.
you don't buy it. It's a very simple habit, but that will pay dividends for the rest of your life. Number 7, get takeout. Don't cook your food. Very contrarian. I know.
What is this man talking about?
As you make more than $15 an hour, it makes more sense for you to work that day, get the takeout food, and get the time back. It makes more sense financially. Most people can, like if you're not being a weirdo, you can eat out for 10 bucks ish a meal. And you eat out twice a day, it's 20 bucks a day, $600 a month. Maybe if you went to the grocery store, it'd be what, 100 bucks a week versus $150 a week? Is the net $50 a week? Can you not make that up for the meal prep, going to the grocery store, cutting, cooking, cleaning? You're saving the pennies rather than investing in the mega millions, which is you. Number 8.
That's assuming that you have the actionable steps to use that time for something that's going to make you money. And that comes back to like skills. Like what are you investing time into learn to skills, right? For me, I think everyone should learn how to use a camera. I think everyone should learn video editing, and that's extremely biased. Okay? But I also think every man should learn a trade. I think every man should learn a trade. I think every man should learn something physical. And it's also kind of the doomsday prepper side of me that's like, if something happens, no one's buying videos, okay? The poorest, the least paid people in the market right now are probably like farmers. I mean, they're subsidized by the government, for Pete's sake, okay? But the richest person, when it all goes up, okay? When the president's not in charge anymore. And this is hypothetical, of course. But the richest person, when it all goes up and none of this stuff matters, is the person that can grow their own food. So I do think everyone should learn a trade. So his point is, hey, how are you investing that time? It's easy to say arbitrarily go out and make money with the new time you have. But the honest part is a lot of people are lazy. A lot of people just want to go sit on Netflix. You know, just chill. Like, oh, I got time back in my day. You would have to consciously make that decision that you're going to spend $10 on the meal, but the next 3 hours that you get back from eating or cooking, cleaning, and eating, you have to invest in something that's going to make you money. And of course, that's all assuming that if you take a $600 hit on your $15 an hour income, that you're going to still be able to pay your bills. It's just a YouTube video.
Live with the wrong people. They have terrible roommates who break things, who go out drinking, who are late on rent. Like these are all things that'll distract you from the things you're trying to do. That's like level 1 worst type of roommate. Above that, you've got people who are responsible, etc., but they don't have the same goals as you. They will speak over you their limiting beliefs, and they will oftentimes not actually root for you, and they will kind of undercut you when you're on this path, which is probably different than them. And the thing is in the beginning, what becomes success looks like failure. You're learning. You're not earning. They're already pulling their earning trigger. They're bragging on the fact they make 70 grand a year. Whatever. Because you have a different goal. And so never listen to people who have smaller goals for your life than you do. So making sure that you're living with the type of people who are trying to do the same thing as you are in your life will encourage one another, and you guys are kind of like in the game together. That's what will shape the way you see the world. I do think it's worth living with multiple people in your 20s because 1, your 20s can be lonely, but 2, it's also just a lot cheaper. I lived in a house with 7 people in California, and I was able to only pay $400 a month in a nice area. Which leads to number 9, your micro community.
$400 a month. You have to. You can't be financially reliant on too many other people. That's the only downside to having a lot of roommates. But to be fair, if you're gonna have some roommates, you got to make sure they're financially responsible. That's the number one way to go broke. Is if you're paying somebody else's rent. You pay $400 a month, but now all of a sudden you pay $800 because they're behind. Heck no.
Your micro community matters a lot. I would overpay for convenience in terms of being close to stuff, close to the highway so I can get on and off and right to places I need to, close to a gym and close to cheap places to eat. If I can do those things, and ideally if I can walk to them, I save time and gas. I get outside. If you live in the middle of nowhere and it takes you 25 minutes to get to the gym and 25 minutes to go back, there's all this time that gets eaten up. I'm willing to pay a premium to save.
Hey man, If I live in the middle of nowhere, I get to be at peace. I don't even know if you have to be like miles closer to people. I mean, it helps. But I would prioritize just like who's in your community. Are you hanging out with the people in your church? Are you building with the dudes older than you in your church? You know, do you have mentors? Do you have other business owners in your surrounding, other people that are actually working and relatively successful at what they're doing, relatively, right? Doesn't even got to be crazy like they're Alex Hormozi out here doing tons of money, but like you have a squad of people that are doing well, but also have good morals. So I don't know if it's like, I got to be able to walk to my homie's house or walk to Chick-fil-A or Chipotle. Oh, sorry, Alex Hormozi. It's huge.
All of the ancillary costs that would go with living somewhere less convenient, less safe. I would live with more people in a better area than fewer people in a shitty area. Number 10, since you model the wrong season of life. Sometimes younger guys will look at what I'm doing and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do what Alex is doing. The thing is like, you don't have the track record. And reputation is built on two things. It's built on what you've done and what you say you're gonna do and having both of them come true. The thing that builds the reputation is not modeling what I'm doing now, but modeling what I did before. You wanna make sure that you model the right aspect of someone's life at the right time. Flying private doesn't make you rich. It means you spend a lot of money. Sequence matters. Number 11, measure.
That's huge. That is huge. It's easy to compare when you're in your early 20s. I know for myself, comparing to other, like when I had clients that were like making millions, and they're like, it's just so easy. I was like, wait, what? It's definitely easy to compare, but you always have to like understand, especially in your 20s, I'm 24, I'm like building a majority of my story. I think it said that men reach their highest earning capacity in their 40s, and that could be men or women, and I'm just being sexist. But people reach their highest earning capacity in their 40s. So if you keep that, you feel like you got time, especially in your 20s. Like, I got 16 years. I could figure it out, especially if you operate with the same mentality that you do now. And then just multiply. I mean, even if you're 30, 35, 40.
Sequence matters. Number 11, measure money in how long it took you to earn it. I worked at Smoothie King, I was 15 years old. $7.25 an hour, a 6-hour shift, right? So I was making $43. People would go next door, I remember noticing this, and they would spend $15 on lunch. I was like, so you have $36 after taxes for coming to work today, and 15 of that is you going to lunch next door. So you're working 6 hours for $20. Number 12.
Wait. He made my point earlier though. He said if you're making above $15 an hour, you might as well eat out. But then he also points out the fact that like you're cutting your margins in half. I just want to acknowledge that.
Get competitive with money around what you're saving, not what you're making. So I told you, this is a season of learning, not season of earning. To know what you're going to learn, you have to budget towards your investment. Rather than thinking I'm making $5,000 a month and spending $5,000 a month, meaning I'm profiting personally zero, say I'm saving $2,500 this month to invest in me. I've had people who I know have been making hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars a year and have nothing. They blew everything.
My biggest mistake. Overspending. Presented by Zach Sperrazzo. I was making decent money at 18, 19, 20 years old. Relatively. So what he's saying here, pretty much had $1,500 a month in expenses and was making $4,000 to $5,000 a month, and then even higher on some good months. And this is all just from freelance filmmaking, right? And I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand debt. I didn't understand budgeting. All I did know was don't go into debt. So I never had a credit card. I never had any of this stuff. I never had any of that. I spent on food. I spent on whatever, equipment. And I guess you could call that reinvesting. But by the time I was married, I was like in my head pumped because I'm going to pay for my wedding in cash. So I paid for my wedding in cash. The whole thing. And then come around tax season, I didn't have any money for taxes. Like zero. I was briggity broke. Like $100, $200 in the account coming back from the honeymoon. So basically the IRS gave me a loan so I could pay for my wedding in cash. But I didn't realize that my expenses were so low for how much I was making that I could have saved so much more. In hindsight's 2020, of course, but now we got overhead, baby. We're adults.
And so make your PR, your personal records, around what you're able to put into that bank account every month. Number 13, check your account every single morning. Until I started doing it, I stayed poor. I didn't want to look at my bank account because it would hurt my feelings. Seriously,
Wow.
I would look at it and I would just feel poor. But that's okay. You have to confront reality in order to change it. Man, money's pouring out of this thing left and right. Once I got a pulse on it, I knew Tuesdays is when I pay for this. Thursdays is when I pay for this. It's a habit that once you learn it, it's hard to forget. And I promise you, just like losing weight, if you get someone to measure the weight every day, get someone to measure the bank account every day, it'll improve. Number 14.
Wow.
When is it okay
That's
to spend money?
huge. that goes back down to like the typical Dave Ramsey every dollar, right? Once you start being able to do a budget, then you understand. I was at an inverse at that one point in my life where I was making enough where I never really had to check, like in ratio, right? I'm not trying to flex, just like a regular amount for Southern California, but in ratio to my expenses, I never had to check. But then I've also been in a place where I'm like, oh man, like I mean, right when I got back, I knew. I'm like, oh man, this is a tight situation. So it goes back to the every dollar. Dave Ramsey, baby, get on the every dollar budget.
It's hard to forget. And I promise you, just like losing weight, if you get someone to measure the weight every day, get someone to measure the bank account every day, it'll improve. Number 14. When is it okay to spend money? If there's one thing that I probably could have done better, is I could have spent money on one-time experiences. And what I mean by that is not going to the club and popping bottles. Going to Europe and doing sleeping in hostels for 3 months. That's a cool experience that you're not going to be able to do when you're 40.
Don't speak that over me, Alex.
Experiences and those windows close. And so if there are experiences that you can only do in your 20s, I wholeheartedly support them, but you want them to be things that when you're 80, you're proud of. Giving yourself permission to spend on an experience in a limited fashion. You don't want to drain your entire investment account, right? You want to go see the Grand Canyon for 3 days, go to the Grand Canyon. If there's some things that like are a little unique to you, I think these are the times that you can do that, and it's worth spending the time and the money to do it.
That was great. I actually felt like that was very balanced. I didn't watch that going into it. But I felt like the biggest ones were invest in yourself. I take that as like learn a new skill. Make sure you're saving money to be able to invest financially into things, right? Whether that's buying a car cash. And then I also heard him say, measure your financial success by the ratio of money you can save, not how much money total you're making. I think those are that's a great view to take in saving in general, regardless of your age, but especially in your 20s. Knowing that it's not a competition for the most money, but it's a competition for the largest margin. Like someone could be making a lot more than you, but they have a 30% margin. You have a 70% margin. You're caking, All right. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.